Well, I'll say hello and welcome everybody to this week's episode of Nerdflix and Chill, brought to you by We the Nerdy. I'm Gary Theroux, and over there broadcasting from the flight deck of a recently landed alien craft, it's Sean Capri.
They did nasty things to my butt, but all in the name of science, Gary.
That would make sense, because in the movie we're going to talk about today, Arrival, it seems like the aliens are spending their time in a steamy shower.
Nice little creepy a steam room. And
Yes.
and they're just walking around like that old naked guy. They're just 30 years beyond caring.
Yeah, they're schwitzing.
Schmitzing. You know, I used to work out at one time in my life. I used to work out a lot at the university, and there was this guy, this old man who he could only have had OCD or something, because he would come into, it wasn't a steam room, but it was a sauna, but he would come in his dripping wet towel, and that was it.
Ugh.
His saggy man boobs, and he would sit on one end of the sauna and then just like scooch the entire horseshoe of the sauna room. He would just make sure that his towel, the anus of his towel, touched every portion of the splintery wood as he dragged across. It's like he was testing fate with his taint. His taint fate was being tested. It was brave, but he came in all the time, and I don't know why, but as soon as you mentioned the whole steam room, I was reminded of this old man, who I haven't thought of since then. I swear I haven't thought of him since then.
Marking his territory with his swalls, yes. Well, I would call that image to mind. I don't think I would be able to burn that out of my memory.
You see his balls?
Oh, well, Buzz, your girlfriend. You were weird. So,
just calm
I'd
the energy down here, Gary. Just take it easy.
There you go. I would like to apologize to everybody, and thank you, Sean, for all the heavy lifting you did last week. I got to listen to your technology reviews whilst I was avoiding doing my job and fulfilling my responsibilities as a podcast host. So thanks so much for the heavy lifting, and I hope everybody out there enjoyed our stunted
There's
and
nobody
deformed
left.
Nerdflix and Chill. Yeah, I also hope you're still here. I hope we still have people who listen to this show.
Please don't subscribe.
So hopefully we'll have a clean as a whistle, incident-free episode here. We're going to talk about the new movie Arrival we went and saw this week, and we're going to talk about our 6 Degrees of Chill entry, which was Die Hard 2, which was great for me. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to talking about all Die Hards in future installments of this show. Even the terrible one that took place in Russia with John McClane's stupid son. But we'll start with getting to the business of our normal episodes, which in this case is the trailer talk segment, which is going to be truncated this week because we didn't see any new trailers in front of Arrival. So all we have to do in the trailer talk segment is talk about the Rotten Tomatoes game, and did we pay off any entries in the November contest of the Rotten Tomatoes game.
All right, Gerald, let's see. We've got Mona coming out in a couple of days, so that's not going to pay off for us. We did get Arrival, so why don't we go ahead and we'll check that out. We also have Billy Lynn's long halftime walk and long-ass title of a movie that's stupid, and that is going to do it. All right, so Arrival, which we're going to talk about here today. We did not get too much separation here. I came in at 75, you came in at 74. We underestimated the power of this movie because critics came in. This actually keeps going up. So the rule is we mark the score down when we record the episode. So as of today, 93, certified fresh, 93% on the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Bam.
Phenomenal. And I think everybody's got that bang on. I just wanted to use the term bang on somewhere in this. I got a list of like nasty little euphemisms that I just want to sneak in there.
I like it very much. That's solid hosting. Preparing a script for
not
Rotten
even a
Tomatoes.
script, just little one-liners.
Brilliant.
Okay, so
with a 93 on a 74 and a 75, obviously no separation there.
Yeah,
and for the month of November, I believe I started with a big lead, but you've been slowly chipping away.
Yeah, but it's no good here. With Billy Lynn's long halftime walk, we knew this wasn't going to be good. It was a matter of how not good it was going to be. I lowballed at 25. You were 52. Critics say 45%.
45.
So you're 7 off. You're like ridiculously good at this game. When you're close, you're close.
That's how that goes. That's how our scoring system
Close,
works.
but
When
you're
I'm close,
way
I'm
off. Yeah, but I don't get like when I'm close, it's like 18 away.
There we go.
These
Well,
weeks.
I hope to put another month in the bank at this game. I hope you're playing along at home. I know I've gotten criticism in the past from some friends who listen, thinking I'm crazy with the guesses I make. So I hope I'm right more than I'm wrong. But that's awesome. I like taking a lead into the latter stages of the month. So that's cool. We're going to pay off those two, and then next week we're going to have the score for Fantastic Beasts coming in. So we're going to continue through November because we've put a lot of guesses in the bank. But because we don't have a ton to talk about in this week's Trailer Talk segment, it gives us a minute with the arrival of Fantastic Beasts next week. I wanted to talk to you for a second about that universe. Arrival as well? What? Arrival?
You
What?
said never mind. I'm being silly. You just keep
Oh,
going.
I
I'm off
got
in my
you.
own world over here.
All right, so I'm curious. Like I say, that universe, the Harry Potter universe. You've said in the past you've seen them all, or not
No,
all?
actually, the last one that I saw was the fourth one, and it was at your parents' house.
Oh,
And for
fantastic!
some reason, I think we just started drinking and stopped watching Harry Potter, and that was my last experience with Harry Potter. So I fell off the wagon, so to speak. I am
And was
not
that
caught up.
because
No,
was
because
that
it was
because
just I fell behind. That was really it. And I had no real way of. I mean, I had a way, but I just never got around to going back to that fourth one and catching up. Because before I knew it, the fifth one came out, and then the seventh one came out twice. I mean, I don't know. So no, I am very far removed from the Harry Potter universe, unfortunately.
So how does that affect your level of anticipation or eagerness to see Fantastic Beasts coming up this week?
Immensely, it affects me. I am not. I have no. This is not hitting my radar at all.
Oh, really?
I was looking for something else, but apparently this is a big deal to people. It's that
Yeah,
music.
because well, it's the music, it's the world. I'm looking at a list here of the Rotten Tomato scores for all Harry Potter entries. They gave us a listing, a ranking that I wanted to talk to you about, but you haven't even seen four of them, so we don't have to go through the list or your list.
They've been
But
spoiled for me well enough. Thanks,
just so
Internet.
we're operating on an equal playing field here,
Sure.
I'll say like the lowest rated Harry Potter movie of all eight of them was at 78%. I mean, they generally get
Which one
high end
was that?
actors. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix was the sixth installment in 2007. There was also a 78 for Harry Potter Part 7, Part A,
Too much
if you want to
Ronald
call it
Weasley.
that. Yeah, way too much Weasel. But it tells me that we should have some faith in these filmmakers, right? Because when you bring back the same producers and studio system that produce these really high quality movies and a series that I very much love. I've seen all of them multiple times. I think it's a great series. And while I don't know anything about Fantastic Beasts, because I have not read those books or anything like that, I do want to put my faith in these filmmakers and say that I'm excited that they're going to put something out that's worth going to see. So,
I suppose.
is it the content for you? Is it fantastical stuff? Is it because they were started out as kids movies, or like you say, you describe it just as in the same way that I've never seen an episode of The Walking Dead because I fell behind. I wasn't watching it with my friends and talking about it, and then all of a sudden it became like burdensome. There's just too much content to get through. I'm not going to slog through 6 seasons or however much that they've done.
Yeah, kind of, because there was a Boxing Day sale a number of years ago. Because you may know this about me, I love my steelbooks, almost no matter what movie it is, and the Harry Potter series has incredible steelbooks. They've got great artwork of just the faces of a number of the different characters, and the other part about maybe this is why I like steelbooks is because I have a little OCD. I could not complete the set in what was available that day, so I didn't buy any of them. I didn't buy 5 of the 7. I'm like, well, or 8 or however many. I left them behind. So I had my chance, and I have mental problems that kept me. Really, it's me. It's not a you, Harry Potter. It's a me thing.
Well, and that's exciting because it gives me the opportunity to maybe, if we get a chance in 6 Degrees of Chill at some point, to roll around to a Harry Potter movie to see something that I've seen but you haven't seen. And I like when we disagree on movies, and I've got a ton of enthusiasm for those. So almost it'd be good if you weren't a big fan or something like that. But like I say,
I was talking about it with somebody at work, and like it's almost like they get disappointed in me because they know I'm a giant nerd when like I'm not totally pumped about something that's fairly nerdy. And they're like, oh, you're not like, why aren't you excited about this? Like, aren't you all the same, you nerds? So I hate disappointing people, but that's where I'm at with it. I apologize, Gary.
it's part of what
I'm
makes
not
you an
gonna
enigma,
I'm not
Sean,
gonna
is that
fake
you
it.
can't be boxed in right? You can't be put into a category. You are a
Mm-mm.
nerd that has not seen all the Harry Potter movies, and I respect the hell out of you for
That's
it.
true. That's true. When I realized that I wasn't like top tier nerd and it was disappointing, but also like great all at the same time, is the first time. Have you ever played Star Wars Trivial Pursuit? This is
I
where
have
you
not.
realize all the stuff that you don't know and that you probably don't want to know. Like the continents on Tatooine, or I don't even know. Like
Jesus,
there's a
yeah,
whole bunch of stuff, and I'm like, well, I've seen Star Wars a whole bunch of times. I could probably like hold my own at least. Nope,
no,
they're
yeah.
not asking like Han's last name or how many syllables are in Chewbacca. They're not asking those questions, Gary. They're way more detailed. So
Nice.
I'm not at that top tier nerd level, and I have some gaps in my nerdism.
Yeah,
Because
there's
I
a
play
density.
soccer.
There you go. There's a density of knowledge there. I think that's the part of the
I'm a
brain I
half-ass
use.
athlete as well.
Yeah, I think that's the part of the brain I use to save sports stats.
Yeah.
I assume that's the part of the brain you use to remember chords on a guitar or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have other interests.
Personal
So
hygiene takes up some space in there. I gotta wash myself like some nerds don't. They just take over that area of the brain
you're
with
absolutely right. I mean, that's the
nerdism.
only
So
reason I have a beard is because I had to use grooming space for useless knowledge.
your beard is like, where did that even come from? It was like a chia pet, like the
It
time lapse chia pet, but I didn't even have to look at the frame by frame. It just appeared.
although I watched a documentary last week like after an
By
Oilers
the end,
game.
the beard was there.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite thing when they do time lapse photos of like things being built, and there was a little cheap documentary put on by the Oilers after one of their games about how the
Mm.
Edmonton Arena was built. And I
Oh
love the
yeah.
time lapse construction photo and the time lapse Gary's face photo. I think would be hilarious. Of like, hey, that's how you build a chin when you don't actually have one of your own given to you by genetics.
That would be amazing just to see like the sun kind of like rise and fall behind you and like the leaves fall but then grow back out. You'd have like a planet Earth kind of thing happening where the flowers bloom and your beard kind of grows out but then you trim it so it kind of shrinks back. What are we talking about, Gary?
You can watch me age horribly like Sir Patrick Stewart. So, anyways, we will move on.
Neither
We
of
will
you age
start.
horribly.
We will start the section of the pro shop, the show proper, which is our non-spoilerish review of the new movie we went and saw last week, which was Arrival, as we've said. This is the new movie from Denis Villeneuve, starring Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner and Forrest Whitaker and others. As we said in the Rotten Tomatoes game, 93% from critics with this movie, 83% from fans, which I was a little bit surprised. I don't know if the fans were looking for more action or more of a summer blockbustery type movie, which is not what this is. But I very much enjoyed the movie, and I was not surprised to hear the 93 part. So this is the story, if you haven't seen the movie or if you haven't even seen the previews, of mysterious spacecraft arriving in the United States in the case of our main characters and other locations around the globe. And we focus our story on Amy Adams' linguist character, who's going to try and decode or develop some form of communication with whatever or whomever is on the alien spacecraft.
Mm.
It's a very dense story. It's not the type of thing that you should wait for on VOD and then watch whilst surfing on your iPhone or other Google Pixel device or whatever you have. There's a lot going on here.
You
It's
did
very
listen.
layered. It's very textured. I did listen, and something that I very much enjoyed. So, how about you?
Fans are stupid. I just want to throw that out there with the comment
Okay,
that their score is not nearly high enough.
not our fans though, not fans of this show. Or
Fans on the Rotten Tomatoes, the
okay,
general
there you go.
internet, the general internet. Everybody who listens to this has obviously got it going on.
I just like it when you insult people.
Well, they stopped submitting things to 6 Degrees of Chill, so I'm really sorry, Jen. I got a little too big for my britches. My bridges?
Sorry.
Too big for your bridges really does make sense, because your fat ass would just like fall over the side or the bridge would collapse. But what the hell is a britch?
It's a type
What are you
of
giggling
pantaloon.
about?
It's a type of pantaloon. I love how easily you get distracted. You were about to tell me your feelings on Arrival, and then I pulled you right off of that with one comment. So I'll lead you back onto
Oh,
the road.
something
What did you
shiny.
think of
Squirrel.
Arrival? Yeah, exactly. Ooh,
Arrival might be the best movie I've seen this year. I'm gonna just go
I
out and
love
say
that
that.
hot take.
I was so happy when I came out of this movie. I was worried that I was going to be surrounded by people who thought it was boring, but because it is slow. This movie is the director Villeneuve practices and shows a lot of restraint by keeping a lot behind the veil. You talk about the steam room here, and there literally is a bit of a veil between the humans and the aliens. That is more than just the visual. There is this kind of there's a separation, and I love that the focus here is on language, and there's a lot here. It's going to be tough to really not spoil, but we have classic M. Night Shyamalamian type of twist here, I feel. And the payoff, I think, is immense. I think the feeling that you get when you go, oh, and like there's a line in there that I went with my family. A few of them missed one key line, and they're like,
Okay.
I didn't know that's what was going on until way, way later. But if you catch the line, and if you're paying attention, it's just like, thank God there are movies like this, because I was engaged the entire time. I thought the casting was perfect. The cinematography was beautiful. It was an original take on aliens, just as a extraterrestrial species and our interaction with them. I can't speak highly enough out of this movie, Gary. I absolutely loved it. So that's my high level thoughts.
So a couple major themes I want to cover, because again, we don't spoil anything in this. So we won't go through any of the direct scenes, but I want to talk. You mentioned the casting, and I'm a fan of Amy Adams, and not just because of her status as an attractive ginger. I think she's a great actress, and I really like Jeremy Renner as well. Forrest Whitaker's accent might be the weakest part of this movie. I don't know why or what he's doing, but in any case, that's a tiny criticism. Where I would agree with you.
Speaking with his eye, is that what you're saying? He has an
his
accent with
eye
his
is fine.
He's like a drawl.
But I wanted to talk to you about a little broader on the casting, in the sense that, do you think it was a good idea to sort of set up Amy Adams as not just the protagonist, but in the world that they've built, this very real world that they've built in terms of how we would react to this type of alien presence, her as the strongest link between the two civilizations, and have Jeremy Renner and Forrest Whitaker and all the other actors in the movie essentially as her team, almost as the dynamic I felt got built, where she was almost the captain now, or something like that. She was at the forefront, and everyone else was sort of supporting her. I felt like this was more of a vehicle for Amy Adams as an individual than it's being made out to be. I don't think this is an ensemble piece. I think this is sort of a tour de force for Amy Adams.
Yeah, and that's kind of the restraint that I was talking about, is that you have an amazing cast here, stars at every corner of the movie, and instead of giving them all like their scene or their chance to like an Avengers type of deal, that is the restraint, to say, like, you've got Hawkeye literally as an Avenger there, you've got Jeremy Renner there, but he is going to just be a supporting role, and he has a certain background that doesn't really contribute. And I was worried as the movie was going along that they made a point to tell us what his background is, and it seemed fairly useless for a good portion of the movie. Ultimately, everybody's background pays off, I think, if not just in a little way, and the movie doesn't stray away from the main focus of language as a connecting point. And this movie is very heavy. If you just want to have like a sci-fi movie, that's there for you as well. But I think there are layers to peel back, and I have to see this movie a couple of times, I think, more to really understand everything that's going on here. I think that there's foreshadowing throughout the movie and loops back all the way to the beginning. And the way that language is built here, I think, was super interesting. The relationships that are built and that we discover in this movie are moving. By the end, I really was kind of just like, got something in both my, like, get a little misty-eyed in this movie.
So that was the other thing.
So it was moving. On top
that was the other major
else.
theme I wanted to talk about with you, because you sort of touched on it there, but you had mentioned earlier in your broader thoughts about sort of the M. Night Shyamalan sort of build of this movie.
Shyamalan-Malanian.
The twist
Yep.
in this movie, or the nature of the twist, that it isn't actually a single moment. It's sort of a realization washing over you.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if that sort of slow burn and the way it sort of leads you by the hand through the third act and explains everything to you piece by piece, do you think that was done just right, or a little bit too much of that, or a little bit too little. And the reason I bring this up is because I went to see it with another friend of ours, and his only criticism, he said he loved the movie, is that you could have chopped the last 5 to 10 minutes off where they really lead you by the hand and paint by numbers
Oh
here and
no.
circled everything for you. He wanted
Yep.
to leave a little more of an Inception-like question
Just.
at the end,
Mm-hmm.
whereas not to have everybody feel so convinced, right? To leave a little bit of a question in people's heads as they walked out. Do you agree with that assessment, or do you think this was handled pitch perfect?
I can see that actually, and there is a moment near the end, I don't know exactly what minute marker it was, where the screen goes black and I'm like, good, finish there, please finish here.
Yeah.
And then they didn't, and I was worried that what you were describing would, and I could see that it might negatively impact people, but for me, that's when the movie hit home. And I know, like, there's a fine line here, because we've criticized movies in the past for over explaining and just kind of hammering home those things of treating the audience like they're stupid. But for me, this was the emotional hit at the very end of the movie, so I was glad that they took another couple of minutes just to go, this isn't just aliens. This is more, and the story, there is more to the story than what we see within whatever it is. I think almost a 2-hour movie here. So I thought that was really great, and that's kind of what I meant at the start when I go. There's foreshadowing that loops around. It starts at the very beginning and it goes all the way to the end, and referring back to the things that you saw in the first few frames. I don't want to spoil anything, but I don't know, I was locked into this movie from the very beginning, where I was asking questions where I don't feel like I would normally be asking questions of a movie to myself. Like, there's something on her hand that you see at the very beginning that has you asking questions about later. What's the deal with that? I'm like, I would never ask that. For some reason, it was presented to me in a way that caused me to ask the question. And that's where I really give a lot of credit to the direction of this movie, where you said it exactly. I'm being held by the hand walking down the path here, but it didn't feel like anybody was pulling me along. It was more just showing me a couple of steps in front of me to kind of go find out what is next, or blowing away the fog.
And to bring that to make that thought a little more concise, I'd say you're bringing that out of me in this conversation here. Is I think that's a good point that I didn't think of. The pacing of this movie. It is steady as a train. It is just, it doesn't feel, there's nothing in the movie that feels jammed in or unnecessary. And there's no hard cuts that bump you and take you out of the story. I was engaged. I was leaning forward in my seat the entire time. I think it was great. So I think we'll end the conversation on this. I'll just ask you two questions. One is obviously, what does all that add up to you in star talk, in a rating system at 5 stars? And then the other one is, after seeing this movie, I don't know what your previous experience with Denis Villeneuve is, but does this make you want to sort of go back and go through more of his backlog? He's only been doing English movies for about 3 or 4 years now, most notable Sicario last year, and then before that a Jake Gyllenhaal sort of psychotic thriller called Enemy, and Prisoners, of course, with Hugh Jackman and I believe Tobey Maguire. No, that was Jake Gyllenhaal as well. Does this make you want to go back and look through his stuff?
Definitely. It's a nice little reminder that I missed Sicario. So I definitely want to go back.
Oh, really?
It was one, like, great trailer, just missed it. And that's why I love doing this show. Gotta go see a movie because I gotta talk about it. So that's awesome. What does this add up for stars? Like I said, this is one of the best movies of the year. This has to be a 5 out of 5 for me. I want to see it again and again. It didn't fall into any of the usual tropes that I think sci-fi stories generally do. It doesn't end in a firefight or anything like that. That's not really a spoiler, but this movie knows exactly what it is. It has no identity crisis at any point. Very, very great. This is not very great. Excellent. 5 out of 5.
It is excellent. So I'm going to agree with you entirely. 5 out of 5 movie. I'm going to say see it to everyone who asks me about it. I very much enjoyed it. I'm a little concerned about the rewatchability, actually. I want to see it again in the same way you're talking about, where how much of the foreshadowing can I catch? But I'm wondering if something that's this patient and this steady could come off as slow or boring when you rewatch it, right? Because it is not at all, like you just said, the shoot-'em-up sci-fi summer blockbuster.
Yeah, possibly. It might not even be a rewatchability thing that I'm even referring to, but really what I want to do is learn more. Like I want to like go read a book about this or something, or special features. Like what what is the artwork behind the ink that happens and all these different things. I want to know more. So I guess maybe
Yeah,
that isn't necessarily another watch, because you're right.
for
Once
sure.
a spoiler happens, then that's
And
it.
it's such a tiny nit to pick. It's a tiny hedge on a 5 out of 5 movie for both of us.
Yep.
So Arrival, excellent. Go see it. We're recommending it 100%. So with that, I would like to move on, if you'll come with me,
Oh.
to our 6 Degrees of Chill segment, which is, of course, our segment where we talk about a movie from our DVD collection or on Netflix or an on-demand service if you want to demand it like I often do. I demand to watch this movie now. We're going to talk about a movie that was recommended by you guys, as they always are. One connection from our previous entry, and this week's episode comes to you with Die Hard 2.
What the
What do
heck
you
did
have to
we
tell us
watch
about Die
last
Hard
week?
2?
Turner and Hooch?
Turner and Hooch, yes.
Was it
And
Reginald Vell Johnson? Was that the connection
I
here?
believe it was. Good
I
catch.
love it. Perfect. Okay, so Die Hard 2. Die Hard or not part of the title, as I've discovered. You, I think, knew this all along. I
Yes.
definitely thought that was just it, which ruins a lot of the jokes that I've made over the last, how many years? 26 years? Yeah, I've been making that joke since 1990. So, okay. This movie was made for $70 million. It made $117 million. You might have heard me clicking because I haven't been able to find the worldwide gross for the original one. I can't tell you for sure if this was more or less, so apologize for the clicking and non-information. Starring Bruce Willis, William Atherton, Bonnie Bedelia, Reginald Vell Johnson, Franco Nero, John Amos, and Dennis Franz, of course, and the dubbed out of the movie John Leguizamo, who is now a fan of the show, if you may have seen on Twitter, thanks to Thane Tingley.
Awesome job by Thane getting some recognition from the actor community.
Yeah, for the guy who was sort of in this movie. But I read on a little trivia thing that he had the one line, and he was like, it's not him delivering the audio in the end, which is hilarious. It's too bad for him. A couple other notable little cameos. The T-1000 shows up for a hot second.
He does.
And what else can I tell you about this movie, Gary? It's a Die Hard movie. It's bigger, it's badder, it's Die Hardier than ever.
Absolutely. So I've got a lot of opinions on this movie. As you know, Die Hard is my favorite movie of all time. So the sequel for me, you would think would be on that 5-star sort of level, but it's not for me. So this is a 69% from critics,
Yep.
a 70% from fans. That seems all correct.
Yep.
I personally give it a 3.5 out of 5. For me, my biggest criticism on the marquee, if we're going to do general thoughts, is it's the same movie as the first one. You've changed the setting, right? But the pacing, even the timing, I would be curious to put this side by side with Die Hard 1 and sort of the beats of when an inciting incident happens.
Yep.
It just feels identical in every way, in a way that almost made it sort of seem pandering and like a cash grab. So those are my general feelings. What were yours?
Yeah, well, to expand on that, that's my plus and minus. So typically I kind of make notes as I go along, and I go, what do I like about this movie? What do I don't like? And in the middle, it's clearly the same movie as plus and minus for me. This is the definition of a sequel that we would see for years to come. Just same beats, same characters, new-ish situations, but very, very safe, I guess, is probably the way to say this. I love how violent this movie is. It's actually pretty gory. There's a couple of scenes that are wonderful to watch if you're into that sort of thing. But dialogue is the thing that I think made the first one so great. It was so fun. And this one is kind of like a podcaster on Nerdflix and Chill who's just a little too into himself and just wants to talk about technology for about 20 minutes. Not the best.
I think the two things that you make me think of with that little synopsis there is, the gore and the violence, they're making every bit of use they can out of their hard R rating. And then, the dialogue, that is one of the major flaws, and you can tell the original script, however many years it took to write, and then this one, it's like, let's knock another one out right away. It didn't seem to get the care and attention of the original. So just for the people who didn't watch the movie or don't remember the basic beats of Die Hard 2 versus the other
it's
four
the plain one.
Die Hard entries, yes, it's the airport / plane / snowmobile one. The synopsis here reads simply as, after the terrifying events that he went through in LA, John McClane is back and he's about to go through it all again, except this time team of terrorists are taking over an airport in Washington, D.C. The terrorists are planning to rescue a drug lord from justice who's on a plane en route to said airport. And in order to help him escape, they've seized control of the electrical equipment affecting all planes. There's a lot of technological advances in this movie from the first one, including sky phones and answering machines, as they were described by Mrs. McClane. So it's still
they
fairly
had car
dated.
phones before. That was the big thing in the first one with the limousine car phone. That was a big deal.
Argyle had a sweet limo phone, and they needed to keep the phone game strong in this one. So
definitely.
For me, I can't seem, as a lover of the original and of future installments, with a Vengeance and even Die Hard 4, Live Free or Die Hard with Justin Long, I have a deep affection for these movies. I absolutely love them in a way that's almost unreasonable. And it's weird that it doesn't carry over here, because every time I took a note of something in this movie, anytime something sort of struck me off the screen, it was something tacky, it was something corny, it was something cheesy.
Yep.
Like, right at the beginning, Colonel Stewart doing naked yoga in his hotel room, and then, I don't know, they like hit it with a musical beat, but he turns, it's like, ooh, he turned off the TV.
Like a gun. He shoots his remote like a gun. Like he's playing the Wii.
Yes, curious to say the least.
I think that what we're dancing around here a little bit is the fact that this movie comes across as a straight to TV. Like, this is in the same vein as the Steven Seagal, like, straight to TV type of movie, or straight to video type of movie.
I never thought of that. I just want to say, I want you to continue, but you're right. It almost seems like the sequel where they jumped and they couldn't get the star back. Mm-hmm. You expect this from, like, Speed 2 Cruise Control with Jason Patrick instead of Keanu Reeves, that they needed to pump this out even though the quality wasn't there anymore.
I was thinking kind of along the lines of like Aladdin, like Prince of Thieves or whatever that was called.
The Return of Jafar.
The Return of Jafar, of course. Yeah, it seemed like that. They couldn't quite get Robin Williams back, but everybody else is there. They accidentally threw one of the guys off the roof, the most interesting character. They just threw him off the side of a building. But everybody else is back for the fun. Even, what the heck is his name? Thorn... Oh, I'm totally brain farting here. He has a restraining order from Holly McClane now, and he's in the plane. So when we talk about things being conveniently like packaged all up together, everybody's back. What is Reginald VelJohnson doing in this movie?
He's still a beat cop. He's still hanging out back in LA, answering calls from his new best bud.
Exactly. It's just
we knew he was a desk jockey though. That's where he was last time.
The one anyway. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but I love that they found a reason to bring him back. But yeah, this movie was dripping with cheese, and so it doesn't make for a quality movie. But I had tons of fun watching this, more than I was expecting. When it came up, I'm like, this isn't a very, like, my recollection is that it's not very good at all. And I guess it just depends on what kind of mood you go into this. So this isn't an objective take on this at all, but I just watched it just this evening, actually. I had such a good time with how stupid this is. Everything is very convenient. It made me think of all the parodies that would come later of movies, either this one itself or movies like this, of, now here's what's really going on, or here's the real bad guy, and you're not in charge, and all the lines. It was so self-aware that you can't really hold it too much against it.
Yeah, it's like you say, I think that's a real good point. If you come into this with an open mind, you're just going to have a good time. You can watch Die Hard 2 and have that good time, right? I think if you're looking at it with a critical eye, like I was sort of trying to do, you start to see all the liver spots and the cracks and the wrinkles on the face of this movie. It's so flawed. The other notes I took.
Do you want to talk about that they set up home base in a church? Like some of the lines here too. The church is dying, or I'm dying slowly with the church, and then he's like, "Yeah, you are," and he shoots the loudest silencer of all time. Like, yes. They make a point to have the little pew pew, but then like a cannon shooting through it for some reason, and the priest crashes through the pew after the pew pew, and it just sets up for a great little home base for them to have the leader on the podium, so he can look all high and mighty in the church, which is not only, I think there's a graveyard out back, but also conveniently enough, they've got all the power lines and the communication lines just maybe less than a foot under the surface of the ground.
It's super convenient. Yeah. Not a
Awesome.
lot of digging through frozen dirt,
No, you don't
right? Because
want that.
manual labor is tedious,
Hmm.
especially when you're trying to knock out a movie in 100 minutes or less. It just, yeah, there's too much of that. There's way too much, and I hate
Convenience.
when we agree 100% on a movie like this, but it is. It's just so simple, and,
Hmm.
and we're just talking about a movie we like because it was layered and dense and thoughtful, and this is just so the opposite of that. It's a
Okay,
popcorn movie, and like you say,
but
that
I
stuff.
need you to do something for me here. I need you to differentiate why it doesn't work here. Where like there's not a whole lot of intelligence in the first one though. Like I feel like this is a tough one because it feels like a double standard. At least it does to me.
Well, I think you got to consider certain things, right? Respect for originals in the sense that
Hmm.
making Die Hard in an airport wasn't a thing until Die Hard came out. So you couldn't slam the original Die Hard for being like Die Hard in a skyrise. It was an originator. The bigger argument I would make actually is what you said already. They threw their most interesting character off a roof in the first one, right?
Sure.
The villain, like so many of these movies, they come down to the quality of the villain. Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber in Die Hard 1 is compelling, believable, interesting, even in some cases likable. People root for him in
Mm-hmm.
that movie. You get his motivation, even if you don't agree with it. And he seems so methodical and almost plausible in the sense like, oh, I could see how he could get. They had a backstory for him. You could see how he could get to that point of criminality.
Sure.
Whereas in this one, you talk about the murder of the caretaker at the church. The casual relationship between Colonel Stewart and murder, right, is like, so okay, you got to murder one guy to set up your base of operations. Maybe you write that off as collateral damage. When you blow up an entire 757 full of people that have nothing to do with anything to make your point because you're still trying to break one guy out of his military prison plane, like it
I
it
heard the
seems
pilot was kind of
unearned.
mean though.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So in that case, when Cole Meany, so did he do it because Cole Meany's British accent was so terrible because they decided to hire a Canadian actor with a nasally voice to do a British accent?
I actually didn't even realize he was putting on a British accent.
Because it was in and out from time
So
to time. It
there
was
you go.
pretty casual
In
and
an
pretty
oot.
bad.
In an oot.
In
So,
and oot.
because that's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie is where they reset the computers to show ground level as being 200 feet off, and John McClane runs out with his torched rags or shirts or whatever, and he's trying to. You think he's gonna save the day? Like, is there like I mean, we've seen this movies hundreds of times now. We know what's gonna happen, but like, is there a moment like maybe the first time you see this, you think he's actually gonna save it, and they fucking crash that plane of
Yeah.
completely innocent people. They're just like, you're
And
blown
it
up.
blows up in a completely realistic ball of fire, by the way. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's supposed to show his imperfections, that he's not a superhero, I think.
yeah.
Right? The idea is like, oh, John McClane isn't going to solve everyone's problems all at once. He's not actually a superhero. And he fails in this instant, like you say. It seems so unearned, as I said earlier in the description of the villain, that it's just like, oh
Mm.
yeah, this guy's cool with murdering hundreds of people. John McClane's going to do his best to stop it, but if he doesn't, like you say, like he says later
He
in the
kind
movie,
of picks
he's
himself
not.
up, dusts himself off.
Yeah,
I don't think they ever go back to it.
it's just a setback. It's like a fumble in a football game. He's trying to win. He says it later in the movie. He's trying to win.
He doesn't like to lose. He doesn't like to lose at all. There's a number of planes that explode in this movie, and we don't, you know what, Gary, we don't get enough planes exploding in movies anymore. And if
Apparently,
nothing else, I like the reminder of the technology, but I also love there's a cute little old lady who is a fan of technology herself. She has discovered the taser. Instead of using pepper spray or mace to fend off attackers, she now has a taser that she casually put in her purse and now has on an airplane. We are not
of
allowed to
course.
have water on airplanes
No.
now. So a nice little reminder of what once was and how far we've come,
Well, that
Gary.
nice little old lady is a budding serial killer. She started with what all serial killers do: animal abuse. She tased her cat,
Your cat!
and it lived for a week apparently. And it's like, yeah, if you
Huh.
use a 40,000-volt taser on your small house pet, damage is going to ensue.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, when with the reporter that's conveniently on the same flight, of course, the taser has to come back and get paid off later as they tase Thornburg, and he
Thornburg.
reacts as if someone just put a paralytic spell on them in Harry Potter, and just sits calmly
Just-
in the shitter where the stewardess is like, yeah, you getting tased seems like the right thing. I'm just going to close this shitter door.
Did I miss something? How did they get into the door that they've been trying to get into the whole time? They just like open it to tase him.
Yeah,
What
at a
did I
certain point,
miss?
all of their jimmying and shaking and efforting pays off, right?
Jimmying.
It was a war of attrition with the door lock, and they won.
Yep. I think Holly opens the door, and then the flight attendant afterwards goes, "I loosened it for you."
Yeah, exactly. So there's that kind of stuff that, like I say, is really easy to make fun of. One of my favorite things is
But it all is. It's Die Hard.
exactly, and Dennis Franz being so committed to
Oh.
not doing his job well. I very much love like the ineptitude of the other cops that aren't the main cop in a cop movie is kind of a trope, and it's kind of predictable.
Yeah.
But in this case,
Was
Dennis
this the original?
Franz is a Hall of Fame. I'm a cop who is completely not interested in helping in any way. I am literally here to logjam this system up.
I was watching this movie thinking, you know what would be amazing is if they redid it, but somehow were able to remove Dennis Franz from this movie and instead, almost like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, replace him with a cartoon character, just this bumbling round cop who's just screaming all the time, and he's got, I don't even know. That's how
Chief Wiggum would fit in well here.
Pretty much, he is a cartoon character and he personified. He was awesome though. He was lots of fun.
Well, and then later on, obviously doesn't have the respect of his staff. Later on, when John McClane points an automatic weapon at him and fires for 3 to 5 seconds, their reaction is to point their guns at him and wait.
Wait a minute. I'm going to see how this plays out.
Yeah,
There's a chance those aren't real bullets that he's firing right now, so let's just let him make
I
his
wouldn't want to
point.
jump the gun and shoot at the guy who's trying to murder our boss right now.
Again, we've come a long way. We've had cops who have had patience before, let a guy completely unload a clip and until we realize that it's not real bullets. That's a great point.
Because they have the blue tape.
What is the point in this movie where you think the future of John McClane and wifey Holly is just not going to happen anymore? Because we know where this goes. We know that she is not pleased. Trouble just follows John everywhere. Like, she clearly ends up blaming him for this terrorist attack, which is a total bitch move.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was out on the tarmac again when your plane landed, screaming for you. All he cares about in these end-of-the-world scenarios is giving you a hug, a sweaty, bloody hug at the end of it. I mean, that's his purpose in life. How are you such a bee about this?
Totally. Chelsea was saying, she was walking through as I was watching the last scene, and he's going, Holly, Holly. And Chelsea's just like, what? What do you want? So maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Mama. Holly, wifey.
Yeah, she just wants to be left alone more than anything else. And whether that's by her husband or by international terrorists, just leave me alone with my Sky phone.
What's your favorite kill in the movie? Let me put you on the spot.
Favorite kill in the movie? That's a good question. I feel like my favorite kill was the unsuccessful kill. I don't know if this is a cop-out, but all of the soldiers throwing multiple grenades into the John McClane's cockpit.
Yes!
And they're set on I believe the timer on those grenades is
10
whatever
minutes.
John McClane needs. They have the longest delay in the history of grenades. His reaction to seeing grenades is, oh, this isn't good. And then he sees 4 grenades and he goes, oh no, I have to come up with a plan. What should I do?
1 grenade. 2 grenades.
Exactly. It was so obviously a set piece just to set up that shot, the bad CGI shot of him in the ejector seat.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean,
they make
good
a
for
point
them.
to say how many grenades they each have. Like, how many grenades does everybody have? We each have 3. And just piling them in there.
It was a gem of a script. Yeah, they actually squeezed that one in there. So what about you? Did you have a favorite kill? Is that a...
I will always be partial to a good stabbing through the eyeball kill, especially with an icicle.
With an icicle, that's a gem. Good call.
Yeah, that's going to be... And the funny thing is, I just saw this movie. I was at my mother-in-law's a few weeks ago. This movie came on just the last, whatever it was, half an hour we were kind of watching it. And that was the scene that fired up just as we kicked the TV on. And both times it got me. The last time I watched it a couple weeks ago and tonight, where I thought he was gonna survive the eye stabbing and John was gonna have to do a little something else, because he lingers with his exclamatory painful and then just dies. Like I thought he needed like another like finish him move, but apparently the because I thought he might just be blind or in a lot of pain, or maybe he just passed out. You think
that icicle made it into his brain matter. He is no Carl. He does not get two deaths in the same movie.
No Carl.
Carl from the first one, the big blonde German in Die Hard 1,
of course,
who gets
he's
hung
hanging.
by the neck by a chain and passes out to the point where he's unconscious, somehow gets his energy back up, like in a video game, if you just go stand in the corner and wait for your health to rise. Then he comes back out to get shot by Reginald Val Johnson later on, and this henchman was obviously not that good.
That was the Carl, let me redeem myself, that was the Carl I thought you were talking about from Family Matters.
Yes, exactly.
I'm like, he doesn't die, we just said he was in this. So yeah, that was I thought he needed another little shot, but apparently the icicle in the eye was good enough. That would suck. Like between that and burned alive, icicle in the eyeball.
Oh no, I'm gonna have to hope that an icicle went deep enough into the brain and the death was quick enough that that's the end. Burned alive, geez, you're a psycho. That's terrible.
Yeah, well, they're not side by side exactly.
So I just want to ask, because it has to get covered in any discussion of this movie.
Right.
I don't know whether it was super cool for you now, or if it would have been super cool for you in 1990. What did you think of all the sweet, sweet snowmobile action?
Oh, the sweet, sweet snowmobile action was very 90s. It actually reminded me of a GT Snow Racer commercial, the Brett Hall GT Snow Racer. They're barely even going on ice or snow. They're basically transforming these things into Sea-Doos at some point, which was amazing. Not quite what we're used to seeing in like the James Bond type of movies, but this was fun. And there was one of them exploded as Bruce Willis did a nice little leap into the air, jumps off just in time for the shots to finally set it ablaze.
He jumped a semi-truck, if you didn't notice. It was very Evel Knievel in the middle of... I don't know why that semi-truck was driving right through there at that time. Very convenient.
Yeah, that timing is... I kind of wish that they, instead of that, just made him jump through like the Golden Arches or something like that. Because those are always going to be there. That's way more realistic.
Absolutely.
You don't need a passing to anyways. Great kills, hostages dead, terrorists attacking an airport. I don't know what else anybody would ever want in a movie. It all adds up to a 3 out of 5 for me. You to respond to your earlier 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if there's much more we can say about this movie. Like I say, it is what it is.
Wait a minute, what's the meaning of Die Hard 2, Gary?
Yeah,
what's the
exactly.
moral?
There is no deeper message here. Mm-mm. It's a 90s, in this case now a 90s action movie, that it sort of is what it is. The last thing I'll ask you then, just to sort of put a button on the end of this conversation, we're now through 2 of a possible 5 Die Hard rankings.
Oh, God.
I'm pretty sure you've seen all 5. I don't know if you've seen the most recent one.
Not all the way through.
Do you have a ranking of Die Hard movies to wrap this up?
I wanna just do the ranking of the top 3. I feel like after 3 things get different. It's like the Mission Impossible movies you could also group into different. Well, maybe 1, 2. I don't know. That was a terrible comparison. This is the worst of the 3. So I'm gonna go 1, 3, 2, 4, and that's all I've seen. I haven't seen.
Yeah, and that's perfect. I actually am jealous of you for having not seen Die Hard 5. It is an abomination. It hurt my heart to watch as a lover of this series. Mm-hmm. And I will say, of those 4, I think the only thing I was surprised to find was that this wasn't as bad as I remembered. I had always said, oh, it's 1, 3, 4, and then a big gap before 2 and 5, right? And in this case, I wouldn't change that rankings. Die Hard 1's the best, with a vengeance, and Samuel L. Jackson and Jeremy Irons, amazing. I hope we get to watch it coming up here sometime soon. And then, like I say, I enjoy Timothy Olyphant and Justin Long in Live Free or Die Hard. So, but what I was surprised by is that this is not painful to watch at all. It's a fun experience. I don't know if I would watch it immediately after watching Die Hard, because it seems like such a cheap knockoff. But if you haven't seen Die Hard in a while, or any of these, this movie can stand on its own 2 feet, as evidenced by our scores. So with that, we'll just move on, and we'll say Die Hard 2, see it. That's a good enough score that I would say, go ahead and check it out if you didn't watch it with us this week. And with that, we need to move on to next week's 6 Degrees of Chill entry, brought to us by you, the listener. We got a bunch of recommendations again this week. So many people to thank. What do you have to tell us about next week's 6 Degrees of Chill, co-host?
I will start by saying you will be pleased, Gary.
Ooh,
you will be pleased because we had suggestions from James Burrell. I don't know if I know James Burrell. Do you know James Burrell?
Facebook buddies, I believe we the Nerdy Fan Group, and one or both of us on Facebook, he sent us a suggestion.
There it is. Thane Tingley, thank you so much. Chris O'Neill. We had a bit of a, as I mentioned before, thing going on with John Leguizamo, a quick little cameo from him. A lot of people going for Mario Brothers. I thought I was, and I'm sorry guys, I have to tell you right now, it's not Mario Brothers. I am a huge fan. They put Yoshi in there. They had Princess Daisy in there when we didn't even know, like, who the hell is Daisy? I thought it was Peach. Why does she look like that? Why is Dennis Hopper in here? What is happening? What is that Goomba? What's a Jurassic period? If anybody's seen that lately, they know what I'm talking about. So no Mario Brothers, but thank you guys for suggesting that. What else we got? Sean Fedunik, another Mario. He's also said Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Chris O'Neill, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, a near miss. Blair Hamilton, Law Abiding Citizen. That's a great movie. Thane Tingley, Spawn, another amazing movie. Blair again with Dick Tracy. Yeah, so a lot of repeating. We should have seen probably one of those, but instead it's James Burrell's selection.
That's amazing. He only got...
Damn it. Die Hard with a Vengeance. Die Hard with a Vengeance is the movie. Wow,
we're going Die Hard 2, Die Hard 3 in back-to-back weeks? I stepped on it there, but that's super exciting. I was just going to marvel at the math of that. I think with Thane Tingley using the hashtag 6DOC on Twitter and sharing the Facebook post where he made his suggestions, he got multiple entries. He got multipliers there. Blair got multipliers. Mario Brothers was in this entry like 7, 8, 9 times. And I know James, he suggested Die Hard 1, 3, and 4, and we already did Die Hard 1. He only got 2 entries, With a Vengeance and Live for Your Die Hard. And it's not only he got picked, but the one in order. We're watching Die Hard with a Vengeance. You're serious.
Dead serious. One of Thane's was next. So again, I set random numbers to all of these and I rank them largest to smallest. And Die Hard had the biggest random value. Thane had the next one, Romeo and Juliet, which I'm actually slightly disappointed that we're not seeing that one. I like that would have been movie.
Really good. And then we could have tweeted back at John Leguizamo like, "Hey, you got picked. We're gonna watch Romeo and Juliet next week." Oh. So, but Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance, absolutely. Super excited for that one. As I said earlier, Samuel L. Jackson and Jeremy Irons. We're gonna have a lot with Samuel L. Jackson. I can't wait to see next week's 6DOC suggestions where we can go from here. You've got options aplenty, and I think this is going to be great. So Die Hard 3 on next week's episode of 6 Degrees and Chill. And to complete the listing for next week's episode, we've got to pick something new to go see in the theaters. And we don't have a ton of options. There is a movie that I think I'm very excited to see on a personal level called The Edge of 17. Like, sort of a coming-of-age teenage story about awkwardness and sexual tension and shit like that, but not
sexual
from the male perspective. Tension, as in denim tension.
Oh.
Yes. But not from the male perspective, where we so often get it. Haley Steinfeld is going to play the awkward teen in this one. Hugely high Rotten Tomatoes scores for it. A great preview, something I'm excited to see. As you said earlier in the episode, Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk debuts today, Friday, when you're listening to this. Not something that either of us are super excited for or that's getting great reviews. But there's sort of one that stands above the others. And I'm really excited about this because it's got to tie into our little show here. Why don't you tell the people what we're going to watch next week?
Well, you are going to watch Fantastic Beasts. You don't even know this. I haven't really talked about this too much. You're going to watch Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
Ooh.
And you're going to review... Well, this part you do know. We're going to have a special guest next week. We're going to have Dave Moore from dayspace.com, from The Character Crunch, from Living Room Clutter, from Shelved and Forgotten. Sorry, Dave, I can't remember all 9 of your podcasts, for God's sakes. Those are 3. That's good enough. At Dayspace on Twitter. He will be joining us. He reached out to me today, and he said, "Are you guys doing Fantastic Beasts on Nerdflix and Chill?" And at that moment, I didn't know, so I checked in with you, and he's a huge fan. I think this will be great to have you guys kind of just touch tips and nerd out, or touch wands, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You
Yes,
can wand.
specifically of our wands is what we're touching.
You can diddle magical wands together. So we'll have our. This is the first episode with 3 people. I don't know what I'm going to do on the YouTube video. I don't know what I've done. I may have created madness here, but we're going to have Dave Moore. I can't wait to have him. Dave, you got to go watch Die Hard with a Vengeance, because he'll be part of that whole conversation as well. So look forward.
He's going to join us for the whole show. That's amazing.
He's going to do the whole show. He podcasts like 9 shows a week. He's insane.
I love it. This is going to be fantastic. I'm so excited to talk to Dave. I'm so excited to talk about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. I'm excited about Die Hard 3 because I'm always excited about Die Hards. And I'm excited for also anything that you've got going on this week over at WeTheNerdy.com, our benefactor site. Are you putting anything new out there? I know you've got podcasts aplenty. I know the site just keeps hiring new staff and hammering out new content and growing and growing and growing. We see their numbers growing. I'm so happy to be associated with the website. Why don't you tell us about what's going on the site this week, Sean?
Yes, I will be putting together. So the Nintendo Wii U is dying. They are creating and producing the very last ones as we speak. So we're going to put together a best of Nintendo Wii U games, according to the editors of We the Nerdy. So that will go up later this week, and I will tweet that one out. Other than that, Comics Dash podcast. That's a show if you like comics, and those guys hate on everything, so it's a good time. And just tons of comic reviews every day. I'm just flipping through the site right now, and of the like 6 here, 3 of these are comic reviews. So go check it out, guys. Bookmark it. I wish we had an Amazon banner here so we could tell you to do that, but I don't know what else you can do. Just go visit. That would be great.
Yeah, another new episode of If We Ran Nintendo. It's just, like I say, everything that's going on there is so exciting and so great. We hope you guys go check out WeTheNerdy.com, the site proper. We hope you guys follow us at Twitter. On Twitter, I'm at Gary T Movies. Sean is at Sean Capri. Sean like the Connery, Capri like the pants. Did I get that right?
That's it. You nailed it.
At We The Nerdy has a Twitter handle as well that our boy Sean runs. You can subscribe and review on YouTube. We're still putting these up on YouTube.com/We The Nerdy if you want to look at our beautiful mugs whilst we jibber jabber here on the intranets. And
sometimes I play with toys.
There you go. And I want to thank you guys so much for listening again and for participating in the show. I can't believe that we keep growing and seeing new people. I'm going to harass John Leguizamo now on the internet, thanks to Thane and other fans of this show. Let's keep tweeting out about the movies that we're talking about and the movies that are upcoming. Keep the recommendations coming. Thank you guys so much.
Yes, I'm going to make up a rule right now. We have to make this happen because this was such a momentous occasion for Thane to get the attention of John Leguizamo. We need... Okay, just pause for a second before we wrap things up here. Who from Die Hard can we tweet like Thane did? I think Sam Jackson's a little too big time. Bruce Willis is a little too big time. Who do we have from Die Hard?
So you want to look down the Die Hard with a Vengeance cast list?
It's like dating. You don't go for the 10 in the room. You go like, okay, 6 I can totally get.
Stay in your lane. Like you want to make sure that you hit on the appropriate number. If you're rating people,
yeah.
Okay,
so
I like that.
IMDb doesn't always have a photo next to, so we don't want to go to somebody who doesn't have a photo, but they're not going to be top billed cast either. Do you know who Larry Brigman is, Gary?
Larry Brigman. I'm going to go look right now at
you totally
Larry Brigman, but I think
know him.
I've got an image of an actor in my mind.
He's like 100 years old.
I was thinking Graham Greene, the same thing. Yeah, we're gonna find somebody and we should all tweet at them. This is a great idea. This also makes for great pod, us reading the deep dive Twitter and
let's just follow Thane's lead. Thane will figure it out.
We're gonna follow Thane's lead?
Yeah.
I'm immediately after we finish with this show going to see if Jeremy Irons has a Twitter handle.
You could tweet Alan Rickman.
Oh no, you can't. Okay, so
do you think he has an out of office reply?
Oh my god. Thank you for calling Alan Rickman. I am currently away from my phone for ever. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it. Wow, that got dark. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. We're going to say thanks again to you guys for listening so much. I have so much fun doing the show. I'm excited for the show to keep growing. We're going to have a guest next week. Thank you, Sean, for all the work you put into this episode. I'm glad you didn't have to do this all by yourself this week. And we'll talk to you guys next Friday on Nerdflix and Chill.
I love you. Nerdflix and Chill. YouTube.com/WeTheNerdy. 5 stars on iTunes, motherfucker.